The following program is a sports handicapping show. That's right, we will be discussing sports betting and all kinds of other gambling stuff, including game predictions. As you know, not every bet will win, but we do our best. Feel free to use this information at your own risk, and remember, wager wisely, folks.
Broadcasting from the Vegas Video Network studios, live from the Las Vegas Strip, Covers.com presents Vegas Sports Day. And now from the sports betting capital of the world, here are your hosts, Teddy and the Professor.
It's Monday in Sin City, and you are watching the President's Day edition of Vegas Sports Day, the pulse of the sports betting world. I'm your host, Teddy Covers, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, the Professor, Dave Malinsky.
Coming up today, we're going to tell you why 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day, some Irish eyes are already smiling. Talk about whether a college basketball turtle is going back into its shell at a key time of the season. And yeah, Wall Street may be closed today, but we'll tell you in Austin, Texas tonight, it's going to be a bull market, not a bear one.
So, Dave, first thing on a Monday, lots of great hoops action this past weekend. What did you see that you want to share with our audience today?
We talk a lot about not getting involved in future books because you tie your money up for long periods of time in so many of these possibilities. NCAA tournament's a little bit different. We're getting close to crunch time now, so we watch extra close on these days. And one of the fascinating things about Saturday, and we're going to talk about maybe some of these sleeper teams in the days ahead, we saw Ohio State offensively just go dark again. People are learning how to defend the Buckeyes. We saw Kentucky in the first half against Ole Miss get the big guy in foul trouble inside, and what was a dominating Kentucky defense, they actually got out exploited. Ole Miss was very comfortable taking the ball to the basket. Some of these teams that are supposedly very good did show us some weaknesses, the type of weaknesses you will see as the competition gets tougher. This is when we actually start to look at futures because, again, these futures tickets, they're going to be wrapped up in 5 or 6 weeks. Find some of these teams out in that 30-1 range that we think can get to the Final Four. And remember, at 30-1, you don't have to win the tournament. Get to the Final Four or even the Elite Eight, and there's going to be a lot that you can do with that ticket. You're not going to be talking futures. You're going to be talking players, aren't you?
Yeah, but I want to talk futures with you for a minute. Who's the sleeper? Louisville? Louisville, the team you... Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say a word. Yeah.
Later in the week.
Okay. I'm with you on that one. I've got my eye on the Cardinals just a wee bit right now. Good price range to support them. My first take today, let's talk about some players. We're not worried about team concept. I just showed an article last night and this morning, finished up this morning, about some of the key point spread players in the NBA this year. I just want to highlight 2 of them right here. Guys, again, way underneath the radar, and yet you look at their team's results with them in and out of the lineup, and you see a dramatic dichotomy. Spencer Hawes, a guy we've talked a lot about on this show for Philadelphia, their starting center, a guy who was basically a bust with Sacramento, was a non-factor in Doug Collins' rotation last year. Look at the Sixers with and without Hawes this season. 13-1 against the spread with him on the floor, 6-12 against the spread without him on the floor. Yeah, there's some randomness in that. There's some static in that. But the bottom line is that Spencer Hawes, no question about it, he's been a point spread all-star so far this season. What about the backup combo guard in Indiana? Yeah, George Hill is not going to get a lot of noise. He played some major minutes backing up Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili in San Antonio last year, the last 2 seasons. Arrived in Indiana this year, expected to get backup minutes. Well, look at him in and out of the lineup for the Pacers. 11-8 against the spread with George Hill. 3-9 against the spread after yesterday's blowout without him. Again, not a guy who's going to affect the point spread in any way, shape, or form. When you look at rotations, when you look at how coaches like to manage minutes, and when you look at the lack of a quality backup behind him, guess what? A guy like George Hill has clearly had an impact on point spread results so far this season. That's just 2 under-the-radar point spread all-stars. There are plenty more out there, Dave. Plenty more out there. But let's open the week by opening the mailbag. and go to a topic that many of you have asked about. We're going to give the authorship credits on this one to Kirk. Kirk asks, quote, "Hey guys, love your show. I was wondering what parameters each of you considers for a streak. Is there a certain number of games in a row that lends you to start upping your wagers, or do you consider a streak insignificant in terms of the amount that you wager?" Good question, Kirk. We got an answer for him, Dave?
Got one that is going to be very different from almost everyone else you're going to hear about in this industry and almost everyone else on the streets. Do not believe in streaks at all when it comes to personal handicapping. Been doing this for 3 decades. Both sides of the counter. Seen thousands of people betting, tracked thousands of people. Yeah, there were streaks, but the idea is someone's hot or cold. I've never really seen anyone get hot or get cold. Keep in mind that you don't actually play the game. Players on the court do. Players on the field play the game. Your attachment is a step removed from that. So someone will say, oh, I'm on a hot streak, I should bet more. But why should you? And okay, if you won yesterday, that doesn't impact anything that's going to happen for any players on the court today. They're going to take the same shots or make the same shots regardless of whether you won yesterday or not. You're on the sidelines. You're not directly participating. So our idea is, okay, what you want to do every day is not take the win or loss necessarily. Look at your handicap. Did you get the game right or wrong? If your ideas are good, keep using your ideas. If your ideas were bad, you may have won, by the way, with bad ideas. If they're bad, get rid of them. But when I hear someone say, I'm hot, I'm going to step up my bets, I sit here and think, well, how are you hot? That guy who made the shot yesterday to win the game, he's hot. You're not. You just happened to be there. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with that. That's just where I come from on this. Teddy?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I do. And not dramatically, because, again, every individual has circumstances that are individual. You know, when you talk about a universal approach, is there a way that we can statistically quantify how hot you are at any given time? I don't know that there is, obviously, other than your one-loss record in any given period of time. But personally, I know that there are times when I'm in a good rhythm, and there are times where I'm not, where you're just not picking the right games or making the wrong decisions or making the wrong cuts. So, again, we talk about upping your wagers. I'm not talking about, doubling and tripling, quadrupling your wagers. No, I'm not. I'm talking about a slow, steady approach, just like Dave is. But when you have one of those periods where the games are jumping off the page, you go down the card, oh, yeah, this one looks boom. You have a good idea of what things you're looking for, what teams and what roles you're looking to support them in, and those games kind of jump off. I mean, that's the expression I use. They jump off the page at you. And when that happens, I will gradually and incrementally up my wager size and try to take advantage of that streak, because the time to up your unit size is not when you're losing. You don't want to be chasing when you're running bad, when you're not seeing things clearly. However, you do want to maximize those opportunities when you're seeing things very clearly and the games jump off the page. Any response?
Yeah, here's part of the problem, though. Whether games are jumping off the page or whether you're doing the right work doesn't always coincide with the record of the games you're betting. You can be doing some very good work and be losing. You can be doing some bad work and be winning. When someone says, I'm hot, so I think, is that just an illusion? Because we want to be hot. We really want to. We want that feeling or that positive reward. And when you want something, sometimes you steer your thinking over that way a little bit. So it can be a very dangerous illusion. We see this happen a lot in football. A guy will have a good college football Saturday, say, I'm hot, I'm going to up my bets. Well, you know what? Those Sunday games are going to be played the same way. Same players making the same tackles, throwing the same passes, catching the same passes. The fact that you won on Saturday didn't change anything in terms of how the Sunday outcomes are going to play their way out. Now, what Teddy did say is right, though, from a confidence standpoint. When you're winning, you're going to feel a little bit better about yourself. You might be a little more confident. There is something to be said for that. Now, that's an internal feeling. It doesn't change the games on the field at all because you're not impacting them. That's an internal feeling that might lead you to do better work. But here's what you want to do. Try not to ever get too high and also never get too low. So when a guy says, I'm cold, I'm out of sync, that can be very self-defeating. If you understand the process as well, again, in 3 decades, I just haven't seen a whole lot of people run hot or cold. We've looked for them, just haven't seen it.
I agree with most of what you said, Dave. I really do. The one thing that I disagree, and well, I guess the disagree is not the right thing here. I'm not talking about if I'm hot in college on Saturday in college football and I'm really seeing things well in college football that I'm going to up my wagers for the NFL games on Sunday or for the baseball or basketball games on Monday. No. This is for a given sport. So you're not talking about being, all right, I'm hot here and therefore I'm going to up my NFL wagers. No. We're talking about if you're seeing college football really well right now or college basketball, we're in February, you're seeing college hoops. And again, we're not talking about necessarily results, as Dave was mentioning. There are games that you're going to be dead right that you're going to lose and games that you're dead wrong that you're going to win. But when you're seeing things clearly, hey, this team's going to play this way. Hey, this matchup is going to work in my favor. Yeah, there are times that does happen. And when that happens, I mean, you wish you could bottle that formula. You can't, obviously. But when that does happen, in my opinion, it's not a bad time to incrementally up your wager size. You got another rebuttal?
No.
I know you do.
No, you're actually touching upon the best part of this. And it's when you identify a team and you've got them and you've got great market value, up it on that team.
Sure.
And there have been several of these that have laid out there. Temple has been golden to us in college basketball over the past month. Louisville has been awfully good to us. So what will happen this week on a Wednesday? If Temple brings us line value, we might bet more on Temple because that particular idea shows its merit. But Temple's winning or losing big because of Temple. It's not because I'm hot or cold.
Certainly makes a lot of sense, Dave. Good question, Kirk. Now, I know that it's kind of a question that a lot of you have sent in. We answered Kirk's. He's going to get credit for it. Please keep those emails coming. The address, of course, SportsDay@covers.com. We answer questions every day on air. This is your show, and the best way, or one of the best ways for you to have input on the show, send us questions and give us topics of discussion that you want answered. You can also follow us on Twitter at Vegas Sports Day. And let's not forget about the Covers.com posting forums. There are active threads and discussions going right now. Become a part of the community, Covers.com/posting forum.
We're going to talk about one streaking basketball team up next and why so many of us didn't recognize them as it was happening. It's time for the postmortem. You're watching Vegas Sports Day.
Are you looking for the latest odds, the fastest scores, the most important trends, and the best matchups and stats? Are you looking for the key late-breaking information that can make you a winner? Well, Covers.com has the answer. The world's largest sports betting community gives you a front row seat in the heart of the action, from the opening lines to the final scores. If you want to stay ahead of the game, Covers covers the numbers.
I'm Courtney Leone. This is Vegas Video Network. You want me to mention awkward silence? Let's do that then, okay. Never been on set here before. I'm always out live on location for Awkward Silence 2.1. I'm Courtney Leone, and you're watching the Vegas Video Network. Good? Better?
Okay, guys, let's scrub up, get those surgical gowns on. It's time for the postmortem. We take you deep inside the game to show you things you should have seen, but probably didn't.
There's not much sex appeal associated with passing a basketball. Unless it's behind the back or between the legs or it leads to a dunk, a pass is never going to make the SportsCenter highlight reels. And maybe that explains why Notre Dame could be 11-3 and tied for second place in the toughest basketball conference in the country, the Big East, holding the tiebreaker over Marquette for the number one spot without generating any market sizzle or buzz at all. Could anyone have expected this? I mean, the Fighting Irish, really a nondescript non-conference schedule. They lost 5 games in non-conference play, 3 of those by double figures. In their second conference game, another double-digit loss by 16 at Cincinnati. They got only 2 games from Tim Abromaitis, who they expected to be their leading scorer before he was lost for the season with an injury. But now, here are the Fighting Irish that have won 8 Big East games in a row, including a stunning rally at Villanova on Saturday night after they trailed by 16 at halftime of that ballgame. They did have some personnel edges working in their favor in that comeback. We'll break that down in Money Time when we talk about Villanova's matchup against UConn tonight. But for now, the focus has to be on Notre Dame. How have they accomplished so much with the markets noticing them so little with Mike Bray's team beating the spread by 76.5 points during this 8-game winning streak.
We didn't see it coming. We actually missed out on this one. And that will happen sometimes in basketball when teams do all the little things right that you can only notice if you're actually watching the team play. You can't get it out of the box scores. We did post-mortems last week on Jeremy Lin and Manu Ginobili. And we talked about how important they've been to their teams because their background was so different. They play to win the game. Lin wasn't drafted by the NBA. Ginobili drafted number 57 back when the Spurs took him. Again, how do you notice those little things? That's what Notre Dame has been all about. They've only got 6 players in their prime rotation right now. Now, you might think that 6 isn't enough. You're going to wear down. You're going to have that depth issue. Hasn't been the case with Notre Dame because when you have 6, it also means you can build a chemistry. And that's what's so important. If the same guys are practicing together, they learn each other's ways. So how did Notre Dame rally to beat Villanova? If you're down 16, you got to do a lot of scrambling, right? They were methodical. They're just grinding. They're just staying within themselves. And that's how this streak came together. If you look at these Notre Dame numbers, 199 assists versus 145 turnovers in Big East play. That's a terrific ratio. Number 5 in the nation for fewest turnovers. Also number 5 in the nation for fewest fouls committed. They don't give a whole lot away. So after losing to this team, how does Jay Wright, the Villanova coach, respond? Let's take a look at what Wright has to say because it gets to the heart of the matter as to why Notre Dame is winning these games. It's not just the margin for error that's so small. It's the margin for success. If you look at their numbers, they're not that impressive. But what is impressive is how they execute. They believe in what they're doing. In any walk of life, if you're a sports bettor, we talked about those streaks before, if you're more confident in what you're doing, you can produce better. Notre Dame believes. That means the outcome is more than what it looks like the parts should make it. This could be a very interesting team at tournament time. There's always a flip side, though, to these equations. What if you don't believe in what you're doing? Here's one that struck us on Saturday. So many games on the board that we can't follow every game as closely as possible, but we like to note halftime scores, final scores, and get a quick feel for where there was a big swing and we need to go back to the post-mortem. Maryland made us do that. Tied at Virginia at halftime. Then we look up later and the final score 71-44. How do you get from 31-31 to 71-44? Something really odd must have happened. So as soon as the box score comes across, we have to grab it. And now here at the bottom of the Maryland box, a bunch of names we haven't seen before. Now it's not unusual to see first-time names with a 1 next to them. A lot of times in the final minute of a game, coach will put their walk-ons out there, just so they will have registered, have been in the scorebook, and go on and say, look, I was in an ACC basketball game. These weren't 1s. These were 3s and 4s. It turns out at the 4-minute media timeout at the end of the game, Mark Turgeon took all of his scholarship guys out, put nothing but walk-ons out there to finish the end of the game. That's a long stretch, the final 4 minutes. That means we've got something we really need to take a look at with this Maryland program right now. That's what the post-mortem is for.
Yeah, first-year coaches will always go under the microscope, even more when we break down games, especially when they come from outside the program and bring a style change with them to their new school. Mark Turgeon, a classic example here. He's a guy who has a very different style than his predecessor, Gary Williams. He didn't know the roster coming in, and the roster didn't know him. And it didn't take long for things to kind of break down for Maryland. They had a very, very ugly showing in a November tournament in Puerto Rico that led to the following outburst. Here's what Turgeon said. This is back in November. Quote, "This is the biggest challenge I've ever had in coaching. It's not even close. The lack of commitment to running the plays the right way is mind-boggling. I've never seen anything like it." Since then, things haven't been all that dramatic. They entered Saturday at 5-6 in ACC play and appeared to be at least on track for one of the minor postseason tournaments, an NIT or a CBI or one of those. And then they imploded this past Saturday, and they did it so badly that Turgeon didn't have any, as Dave mentioned, of his scholarship players on the floor after that final timeout. His take is one that we've heard before, and he acknowledged that in his post-game press conference. This is what he started out saying, quote, "Yeah, this reminds me of Puerto Rico." Then he continued, "I've just had enough of selfishness. not boxing out, not defending. I wanted to do it earlier. You can go down our whole list, and if you can tell me one guy that played well today, I'll argue that you're wrong. Note that when he said, I wanted to do it earlier, he was referring to putting all walk-ons in the game as opposed to any of his scholarship players. It's really late in the season to hear a coach talking like that right now. Coaches ripping their team a new one, not what we expect to see in late February. Have they tuned him out completely already? Might things get worse instead of better? Plenty of food to think about as this Maryland team prepares for a meeting with the red-hot Miami Hurricanes tomorrow.
President's Day means a TNT doubleheader in the NBA tonight. We're going to cover both of them for you as Money Time begins.
No pressure. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers from, can't think of the name of my damn show, Golf and Other Four-Letter Words, and you're watching the Vegas Video Network, I think.
Livestream is your premier place to watch live events on the web, mobile devices, and connected TVs. See new events daily or broadcast your own at livestream.com. Livestream. Be there.
It's Monday's Money Time! This edition of Money Time is brought to you by Covers.com. Remember, for all the key information you need in every sport, Covers covers the numbers. Let's go to Dallas tonight, where the Dallas Mavericks 6-point home favorites, now 8-point home favorites, now back down to 7.5-point home favorites against the Celtics. And we've seen some very dramatic line moves on this game basically since we went on air. One of the advantages of having Sports Options Live odd screen right here on the laptop is that we can follow the line moves as they happen, even when it happens on air. And we've seen this jump up, jump down, jump back up. A lot of volatility between the Mavericks and Celtics for tonight. Obviously, personnel issues for both teams. But this is one of those games where you just wonder, is there such a thing as basketball Viagra? I mean, these are two of the oldest teams in the NBA, and boy, they look their age in losses yesterday. The Celtics, 22 turnovers on the road at Detroit. That's a Pistons team that's ranked 22nd in the NBA in forcing turnovers. A lot of unforced errors for Boston. And boy, without Rondo in the lineup, that offense did not look pretty. Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, we talked about some of the depth issues that Dallas has in their backcourt. That duo combined for just 6 of 18 shooting against the Knicks, and yesterday had as many turnovers, 6, as assists, 6 in that contest as Dallas blew a double-digit lead in the second half on the road against the Knicks.
So now the question going forward is, who do we get to see tonight? Kevin Garnett, not with Boston yesterday. It wasn't injury-related. It's got a family matter they had to clear up. They don't expect him back in time tonight. The reason why there's been this line fluctuation, Rajon Rondo in or out tonight? Well, no one will make a statement yet. There's a concern that he might be suspended by the NBA. He was ejected from yesterday's game in Detroit, ended up kind of heaving the ball, not gently tossing it to an official, kind of heaved it at an official after he'd been kicked out. We may not see Rondo tonight. And that goes back to our starting point. Veteran versus veteran, these teams have played really good games against each other. Because you've got the sort of ego players on both sides, you only play twice a year. They've relished getting after each other. If we take a look at the last 3 seasons, head-to-head between these teams, look at the value you would have had backing the underdog. 4-1 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. The only time the favorites even won the game outright on this court last year, Dallas laid 3.5. They won at 89-87 at the gun. So these two teams have gotten after each other pretty well in the past. Our question for tonight is, will the right players be on the court to make that history relevant? You'll still have Dirk. You'll still have Jason Kidd. You'll still have Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. Problem is, if you watch the Celtics without Rondo, Pierce and Allen look 2 or 3 years older when he's not on the court.
Yeah, I'll take the over 2 or 3 years older. They look really old. And again, we don't know officially if Rondo is going to be in the game or not tonight. The betting markets seem to think that he is going to be suspended. I imagine we'll hear at some point, obviously, in the next few hours. But I mean, Boston, this team's 15-15 right now. They are a 500 basketball team playing in the weaker of the two conferences. 14 of their last 15 opponents have grabbed at least 10 offensive rebounds against them. This team misses, Kendrick Perkins maybe, the guy that Danny Ainge gave away last year at the trade deadline. Without Garnett in the lineup, and again, Garnett not expected to play tonight. Without KG, the Pistons played him twice in the last week. They beat him by 25 points and 14 rebounds over those two games. This is a Celtics team, with a phenomenal track record as a road underdog in the Doc Rivers era, but I'm not so sure that matters a whole lot at this stage of this team's campaign.
Head to the TNT doubleheader nightcap at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. The host Lakers, right now a 4-point favorite over Portland. Lakers come home from just getting basically wiped out at Phoenix last night, trailed by as many as 27 points. Disasters all the way around. Kobe Bryant, 10 turnovers, the second high for his career. Now, if you remember back to one of last week's shows, we talked about that point guard matchup between the Lakers and the Suns. Look at these numbers. Derek Fisher and Steve Blake, in 47 minutes and 11 seconds, almost played the full game, they had 2 points. Steve Nash, he was on the court for 36-30. Phoenix was plus 18 in that court time. Once again, Lakers getting dominated at that key position. But now here comes the question. Kobe was on the court for 39-51 last night. In a game the Lakers trailed by 27, knowing they had to come back and play not only Portland tonight, but 2 showdown games Wednesday and Thursday before the break. Was that a real sign of desperation for Mike Brown? Are we seeing maybe some chinks in the Laker armor that go beyond the concerns that we've been raising all along?
Maybe. I mean, we just talked about Boston as being 15-15. Look at the Lakers right now. They're 18-13, mediocre team in a mediocre division. But it's Portland I need to talk about here because the Blazers rested now. We talked about them last week with their 3 games in 3 night stretch. Well, they had Friday off. They had Sunday off. In between those 2 games, a 20-point blowout win over Atlanta on floor with LaMarcus Aldridge returning to the lineup. But this is a team, they've been nothing short of awful on the highway this season. No way to sugarcoat the Blazers' 5-10 straight-up record away from home. And their end-game issues, something we talked about a little bit last week. Let's show the graphic right now because this really stands out when you're talking about teams unable to get those key stops or key makes at the closing minutes of close games. Portland's close encounters with a line -4 to +4. Games that are supposed to be tight. Blazers, 2-12 straight up, 2-11-1 against the spread on the road. That's 0-9 straight up, 0-9 against the spread. And look where the spread is for tonight's game. The Blazers in that 4-point dog range again this evening. So we're talking about a team that's 2-10 in games decided by 5 points or less. We're talking about maybe a situation, if we don't trust LA to lay the points with them tonight, maybe it's an opportunity to get involved with the favorite on the money line. It's not something we do very often in basketball. This might be one of those instances where -170, -175 with LA makes a little bit more sense than laying the points. Lakers supposed to win this game. Portland's been finding ways to lose them. And I wouldn't be surprised that happens again tonight as LA tries to wipe out that awful taste in their mouth from yesterday's defeat.
Up next, Big Monday, ESPN doubleheader on the college boards. We're going to break both of them down for you. You're watching Vegas Sports Day.
Traditional media believes that after about 3 minutes, you'll tune out. Most Vegas media companies think if it doesn't jiggle, you won't tune in. At the Vegas Video Network, we think both are wrong. The Vegas Video Network is the first and only live online broadcast network that specializes in insider news and expert views about Vegas. We combine great storytelling with the ability to watch when and where you want on your computer, mobile device, or television. Discover the real Las Vegas. Visit VegasVideoNetwork.com.
Big Monday doubleheader. Let's get it started in Philadelphia tonight, where the UConn Huskies, 3.5-point road chalk at Villanova. Man, this is a bet against versus bet against game if I've ever seen one. We talked about the Notre Dame rally to beat Villanova in post-mortem. This is nothing new or different for Nova. They've been struggling, and of course they're missing two key components of their rotation, Malik Waynes and James Bell, I should say. Paper thin. They're starting five. Again, they're starting five. So most are supposed to play is 200 minutes. They all play all 40. Well, they played 202 minutes in the loss to Notre Dame on Saturday night. The bench combined to score a grand total of 3 points in a grand total of 23 combined minutes for their entire bench. So every starter on this team is gassed, no question about it. Javon Pinkston played all 45 minutes. Dominic Cheek played 44. This is a team that led by 20 early in that ballgame, led by 16 at the break, and then proceeded to score 31 points in 25 minutes of game time, the second half and overtime, finding a way to lose a winnable game.
But can Connecticut be the favorite? We talked about the Huskies on Friday's show. We turned a play of the day on Marquette against them, noting that not only Jim Calhoun missing on the sidelines, but when they found out that they weren't going to the NCAA tournament next year, took a lot of focus away from these kids, which means that if they don't make the tournament this year, and their RPI has them looking like they're in, but their body language on the court has them looking more like they're out, some of these kids may never play a tournament game in a Husky uniform. They won't stick around that long. Here's what we find to be the most interesting thing. Usually a Connecticut team will always fight for 40 minutes. With their talent, they're rarely going to be out of a game. They've been out of a lot of games. This February, 4 Big East games already lost in double figures. Let's take a look at how that compares to what we historically have seen from this program. Again, just in this February, 4 February losses by more than 10. We go back the last 8 full Februaries, a period of 62 games, only 5 losses by more than 10. They're capable of equaling 8 years of blowout losses in just one season. It gets so bad that we get this quote from Shabazz Napier, and this gets to the heart of the matter, literally. It says, "I hate to say it, but I have to question some of these guys' heart." When you're willing to say that to a reporter, basically it means you're seeing the same thing that we're seeing from watching you on the side. So, yeah, we'd love to bet against Connecticut tonight, like we did Saturday. We're just not sure that we can because Villanova doesn't have all their tools.
I mean, this is a hard game even with the total, Dave. We've noted how Jay Wright, the Villanova head coach, he loves to scramble up games at the end. He's going to start fouling early, and the Wildcats can hit some three-pointers, and you see more scramble points, per se. Scramble points, again, the last 2 minutes of the game when you're fouling and hitting three-pointers and all of that. Villanova, they tend to score a lot of those scramble points, but at the same time, which projects well to overs, but at the same time, they played 2 games without Waynes, 28 below for the projected totals in regulation. And you look at that short bench and the short turnaround time since Saturday night's game, and you say, if Wright wants to push the tempo here, he's insane. You have to manage your minutes. You have to control the pace. And the right move, in theory, for Villanova here is to slow down the tempo. So hard total, hard side. I don't like this one, Dave. Let's talk about the next one.
Let's go to Austin, Texas. Texas hosting Baylor tonight. The host Longhorns right now a 2-point favorite. Second go-around between these two teams. Good game in Waco the first time. Baylor wins at 76-71. Didn't cover the spread. They were -7 in that game. Perry Jones comes up big. 22 points, 14 rebounds. Since then, it's been a different Baylor team. Only 3-3 straight up. 1-5 against the spread. We did a post-mortem breakdown on some of their endgame issues that have contributed to that. But one of the keys, Perry Jones himself, who had the big game against Texas the first time around, for as talented as he is, there's been a disappearing act in some of the bigger games on their schedule. In their wins this year, they're 17-5. In the 17 wins, 15.2 points a game, 8.3 rebounds. In the 5 losses, how about 8.3 points a game, 4.6 rebounds? Almost falls in half. In 4 of those 5 losses, he did not get to the free throw line. This guy with a lot of talent who has not been stepping up when they need him most. Texas, a little different story. Young team that's growing up a little bit. And, of course, if we're going to talk about Texas basketball this year, we have to talk about the fact that at home, they seem to have a 6th player on the court.
Yeah, maybe sometimes 7 or 8. The 5 Longhorns on the floor and the guys wearing the zebra stripe shirt. Let's show that graphic. This is something we've talked about on Vegas Sports Day more than once this season, but it certainly merits attention in a game with this point spread range. That's the Longhorns' free throw disparity at home. They've had 11 lined home games this season. Texas in those games, 364 free throw attempts. Their opponents, 200 free throw attempts. About a 7-4 margin for Texas in terms of free throws. That's 110 net points at the charity stripe in those 11-9 home games. Yeah, that's an average of 10 points per game in Texas's favor, thanks to the guys in the striped shirts. That's, pretty significant. And the only game all year at home where Texas didn't shoot more free throws than their opponent came against Kansas, and Kansas vying for a Big 12 title, vying for a national title perhaps. You would think, and you're not surprised by the fact that the Longhorns game against the Jayhawks was officiated relatively cleanly in comparison to some of these games.
One of the big issues we talked about with Baylor, though, in that postmortem is end-game issues. A team that doesn't take care of the basketball terribly well, so you give a lot of possessions away. And that's what we think we're going to see tonight. Similar to when Teddy talked about Portland and their issues on the road in close games. Let's take a look at some of these Baylor numbers. 195 turnovers in Big 12 play. Now, contrast that to Texas at 152. That's 43 over 12 games. That's 3.5 possessions per game they give away compared to Texas. That's very, very meaningful. For the full season, Baylor number 228 in the nation in turnovers committed. What happens when you don't take care of the ball? You're not very good in close games. Baylor this year 5-10 against the spread in games where the line was 8 points or less. Competitive games where you got to play smart basketball. Baylor hasn't gotten that done. They're pretty, they're talented, but they're not polished. And what do we do against teams that are pretty but not polished when they're on the road in a close game? We step in.
Absolutely, Dave. It is play of the day time, and we're going to look at the Texas Longhorns. You can still find them -2 in most locations. Again, this is a team that's finally gotten a little bit of scoring balance. They found someone besides Jacobin Brown who can put the biscuit in the basket. That's Sheldon McClellan, that scored in double digits in 5 consecutive games. That offensive balance was missing in the first meeting between these two teams. Texas has found it of late, and after they were whistled, would Oklahoma State have 56 free throw attempts over the weekend in the Longhorns' loss? This is a team on the bubble. They got to win. I don't know. That's priced into this range. Baylor's already punched their ticket. Texas has not. Let's take our shot with the Texas Longhorns -2 at home. That's the Vegas Sports Day play of the day for Monday. That's going to wrap it up for the Monday edition. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us. For Malinsky, I'm Savransky. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again mañana.